So there are many different function families, but in Algebra 1 we're going to talk about 4 of them. So a linear function is a constant increase or decrease function. It has what we call a slope that's constant, and it makes a straight line. So the characteristics are it's a straight line. So an example would be y equals x plus 3. You can tell if a function is linear if it only has an x value, or it's not an x squared value, it's not the absolute value of x, it's not the square root of x. So x plus 3 would start at 3 on the y-axis and have a positive slope because the number in front of x, the coefficient of x, is positive. So a linear function makes a straight line. So a linear function can be a straight horizontal line, or it can be a vertical line, but if it's a vertical line it's no longer a function because it's not passing the vertical line test. Okay, quadratic function. So a quadratic function is called a parabola. Now, a parabola can have a minimum or a maximum value. So a parabola looks like a U, and it's curvy, and it can either open up and have a minimum value or open down and have a maximum value. This is a maximum value, and this right here is a minimum value. So an example of a function that looks like a parabola is y equals 5x squared. You can tell a function is a parabola because of the x squared value. Now this parabola has an a value, this is called the a value, or coefficient of x squared, that's positive, therefore it's going to open up and have a minimum value. Okay, absolute value functions are also have constant rate of change. However, it goes from negative to positive slope or from positive to negative slope. Characteristics is it makes a V. So you can have an absolute value that goes from a negative to positive slope, or you can have an absolute value that goes from a positive to negative slope. Either way, these are linear. It's about half of a linear function. You can think of taking a linear function, two linear functions, and putting them together. You can tell if a function is an absolute value function because it has the absolute value symbol in it. The number in front of the absolute value, outside the absolute value, is the slope. Tells you whether it's opening up or down. And if there's a number that's a constant, this tells you if it's shifting up or down. And then a square root function looks like half of a parabola. So it has a square root in it, and it looks like half of a sideways parabola. So an example would be y equals the square root of x plus 4. So here what a couple of square root functions look like. It can open up if the number in front is positive, or it can open down if the number in front is negative. Now this will tell you how much it's moved up or down. So we're going to practice these on the next page. So I'm going to go through some of these here. So just like we talked about function notation before, instead of having y, you can write f of x is equal to 2x plus 3. So this is a linear function because there's not an absolute value, square root, quadratic. This isn't a linear function. It's going up from left to right because it has a positive slope. How is it shifted on the y-axis? This constant right here is telling me how it shifted. So it is shifted up 3. And then I'm just going to sketch a general shape of it. So I'm going to go up 3 and make a slope that's positive. Number 2. This is a quadratic function because it has an x squared, so it's going to make a parabola. It's going to make a U shape. It opens up because this 4, this number in front of x squared is positive, so it opens up. How is it shifted on the y-axis? Look at your constant, it's going up 1. So to draw a general shape, I'm going to go up to 1 and make a parabola that opens up. So you can see the pattern that we're going to do here. Number 3, g of x equals negative 3 times the absolute value of x. Does it open up or down? This function is going to open down because of this negative out front. How is it shifted on the y-axis? The constant right here that you can't read, or that's not written down, is 0, so it hasn't been shifted. It's going to start at the origin. Sketch a general shape. So it's starting at the origin. We know it makes a V because it's an absolute value and it's opening down. So it's going to look like this. Okay, number 4, what kind of function is this? This is a linear function because nothing is going on with the x. So it's going down from left to right because the number in front of x is negative. The constant is negative 2, so it's shifted down 2 on the y-axis. So I'm going to go down 2, make a negative slope, okay, number 5. This function makes a parabola. It's opening down because the number in front is a negative. So it opens down. How is it shifted on the y-axis? Look at your constant, which is negative 2. It's shifted down 2. So on the y-axis, I'm going to go down 2 and make a parabola that opens down. I know it's a parabola because of the x squared term. Okay, number 6. This function is going to make a V because it has an absolute value. It's going to open up because of the 2. So it's opening up. And the constant is 1, so it's shifted up 1. So I go up to 1 and I make a V. Okay, number 7, next one. This is going to make a half a parabola. And it's opening down because the number up front is negative. And it's shifted up 2. So I'm going to go up 2, make a dot, and I'm going to make the parabola, the half parabola, open down. And the number 8, this is going to make a square root function again. It's opening up because the number in front of the square root is positive. And the constant was negative 3, so it's going down 3. So I go down 3 and have it open up. Now list 3 facts about the graph. So I'm going to write down the general shape. So it's a linear function. We know it's a linear function because nothing is going on with the x. We know that the slope is negative because it's going down from left to right. And we know the y-intercept, where it starts on the y-axis, is 4. So number 10, I know that it's a square root function. So it's going to look like half of a parabola or a sideways parabola. And I also know that it's opening up because the number in front of square root is positive, so I'm going to write opens up. And then I'm going to write that because the constant is 4, the y-intercept is 4, or it's shifted up 4 units. And then number 11, I know that it makes a parabola because it has an x squared. I know that it's opening down because the number in front of the coefficient of x squared is negative. And I know that it's been shifted down. So the y-intercept is -3. Number 12, I know that it makes a V. I know that it opens up because the number in front of the absolute value of x is positive. And I know the y-intercept is -4. So hopefully you can see the pattern with all of these functions and how they're being shifted. We get into specifics more with each function in each chapter.